Welcome back to the Birth, Breath, and Death podcast. This episode is undoubtedly one of our more emotional conversations. Our conversation explores the grief that follows the death of a baby, the importance of compassionate care, the power of community, birth choices, and what it means to continue loving and parenting a child who has died. My guest is Helena Morais, founder of Maila's Present, an organization born from profound love and unimaginable grief. I first met Helena at the Equitable Bereavement Care Conference in 2025, where she was speaking on a panel alongside other bereaved parents. I remember sitting in the audience completely in awe of their courage. Here were parents speaking publicly about the babies that they love so deeply, sharing their stories so that other families might receive better care, greater understanding, and perhaps one day experience less heartbreak. Not long afterwards, I attended a baby bereavement training that Helena was delivering, and a friendship grew. This episode is dedicated to Helena's beautiful daughter, Maila Angela Viana Morais, who died at 36 weeks and 5 days of pregnancy. Although Maila's life was heartbreakingly short, her legacy continues to touch thousands of families. Through Maila's Present, Helena creates personalized storybooks for bereaved parents. Each book is personalized with baby's name, gender, skin tone, and hair, creating something deeply personal and unique to every family. They are gentle, poetic stories that honor the relationship between parent and baby, celebrating a love that begins long before birth and continues after death. Whether you've experienced baby bereavement yourself or know someone who has, or simply want to understand how to care for grieving families with greater compassion, I hope you stay with us. Because while this conversation speaks about death, it is, at its heart, a conversation about love. Here's my conversation with Helena. Welcome. I am so grateful for you making the time to have this conversation. I know it's not an easy conversation most of the time, probably, and a conversation to keep on having. But I'm just so in awe of your courage and the love that you have and continue to have and to show for your daughter. And without further ado, I think it's good to get us started on this conversation. How are you? Would you like to introduce yourself and just share a little bit more about what it is that you do?
Yeah, thank you so much for the lovely introduction, for making this such a warm space for me. And I'm so grateful that I have met you and how we met and in the different ways that we've been able to connect and have so many things similar as well. So yeah, my name is Helena and I am Maila's mum. My daughter Maila Angela Viana Morais. She was born in 2022 on the 29th of December. But she died just before birth. I don't actually know exactly when before birth, but I had placenta abruption. And so that is what they assume put me into labor. So probably she died a few minutes after that, because as soon as the placenta is out, there's no way that she's getting any oxygen. And I started my labor around on the 29th. I want to say midnight, or just either just before midnight or after midnight, something like that. But I spoke to a medium in February of 2023, so 2 months after Maila had died, and he told me that she was alive on the 28th. So that's something that really alleviates me, because I had this fear that I was with her for a whole day and didn't realize that she was dead. So he assured me. And it's very interesting that he said that without me saying anything, because that was a question that wouldn't leave my head. So
And
since
I'm going to stop there just to say, mediumship is something I'm really interested in. And as soon as you said that, from when you said that until now, I just got so many chills. So I wouldn't normally interrupt, but like I was just like just throughout my body, and I always take that as like confirmation of something. So I just thought I'm gonna interrupt there and just share that little bit with you.
Yeah, I don't often talk about, well, I do talk about the mediumship, but there are interviews that I don't often bring it up. I think I've only brought it up in like three other moments. And I feel like with you, you're someone who will receive that information and understand it as well. And after, when I had that meeting with him, I knew that he was telling the truth because there were so many things about my past in childhood that he was telling me, like about my mom having a miscarriage and that my sister, which we didn't even know was a sister, would have been 21 now. It's well, when I had that reading. And yeah, it was just very bizarre. Well, not very bizarre. It was just like a confirmation that death is only just a transition. Well, not only just because of like the weight that you feel being on the other side, and there's so much complexity, but it is a transition and it's a continuous, your relationship to that person is continuous. And so that's why the way that I am and do the work that I do, because I am doing that. I'm continuing that relationship with my daughter. And so in 2024, I started doing personalized books for parents who have lost their babies because reading was something that I was going to share with Maila. Her name is actually inspired by Maya Angelou. And so I wrote a book called When I Was in Your Tummy, and it can be personalized, put different babies' names. And also, I had my son after Maila, like a few months, not a few months, like maybe 9-ish to 10 months.
Yeah.
10 months after her. And I didn't want people to just think that I only had one child. And so it worked quite nicely. And then I ended up doing creative writing workshops, which I do, the courses that I do for doulas, that's how we met. And that's something that I only started in 2025 in September, really enjoying it. Yeah, it often feels like I'm sharing useful information to people. And I think that's what's really important, that Maila's legacy inspires people to support other people better.
Yeah. And just to go back a little bit as well, because I think, the pregnancy and also the time that you had together, that is sacred as well and special, What did you most enjoy about being pregnant with Myla, and what do you remember from that time as well?
Yeah, I think the thing I enjoyed most was like feeling invincible. Like it literally felt like I had a superpower all of a sudden. It was just so bizarre that you can have a life inside of you, and just how incredible the women, like our bodies are. I felt so, wow, so light, so bright. Literally, I felt like there was sun inside of me. Yeah. And I loved, oh, there was nothing. It was such an easy pregnancy. Like I kept saying to myself, is this what pregnancy is? Like this is just so easy. It was such a walk in the park. I had no nausea. Oh gosh. I had like really nice cravings. Like I loved strawberries. I loved eating feta cheese, bagels. The only thing that really stood out was the back pain, but like in the later weeks. And also whenever I'd sit, I remember when I was at work, because of the back pains, I had like the bouncy ball.
Yeah.
And like whenever I used to sit down really close to my legs, where my belly's touching my legs, she would poke at my legs. And it was such like a funny feeling. Like it was a bit uncomfortable, but also very cute because I felt like she was being playful and communicating. I used to work as a recruiter for schools. So we'd have to wake up really early, like around 6 in the morning, to make sure that we're getting any candidates into work that needed to go into work, whatever. And Myla became so attuned to my daily waking up ritual that she would also wake up at that time. Or there would literally be days that I'd like fallen asleep, didn't hear my alarm, but she would sort of wake me up anyway. So even if I was going to be late, I would never actually be late because she was waking me up. And I just thought that's such a brilliant way to communicate with your mom. And she was just so attuned. And then in fact, on the day before she died, her movement actually changed. It was very different. But I just thought, oh, this is so silly of me because I personified it in like a very like personalized way. Like in you know how like as adults we have certain attitudes and behaviors. I was giving that to a child who hasn't yet lived on the outside world, so it didn't really make sense. But basically she was moving so much and I said, oh, she must be excited because she's coming out soon. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? And I remember my partner wanted to touch me, and then I kept moving his arm because it felt uncomfortable. So even then I was already feeling some sort of discomfort, but I didn't know what it was exactly. But yeah, I can say that I had a very beautiful pregnancy. I'm really, really grateful for that pregnancy. And we had some really good times. Our baby shower, oh, it was amazing. I joined the baby shower and gender reveal in one. My cousin, who's Mila's godmother, we still give her that as the godmother, as the title. She organized everything. She knew Mila's gender. She made us wear brown if we thought she was a boy, and cream if we thought she was a girl.
Okay, nice. I like that rather than blue and
Yeah,
pink.
rather
I love it.
exactly.
Had you chosen her name at that point?
So I thought she was a boy, so I'd
Okay.
not chosen her name.
Okay.
So
Was it on the
that
short list?
yes, it was because my
Okay.
partner, he chose her name ages ago. Like when we around like after a year of us being together, he said, "Oh, if I have a daughter, I want to call her Maila." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a nice name."
Yeah.
And then it matched up nicely because my cousin's name is Angela, and then Maya, Angelou, it all just made sense.
It
So
feels
yeah.
like it's fitting when I've heard you speak about her. I'm like, oh yeah, like it makes sense. So that's why I thought, oh yeah, maybe chosen. Okay. So
Yeah.
then you had the gender reveal and baby shower and felt all that love. And, I think it's so important to bring that into the conversation because, like you said, relationships and energy, it is on a continuum, and even like that time with her when she was in utero, it's good to remember that part of the journey as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, and then can you talk to me a little bit then about just before her birth and what happened around that time?
Yeah, so like I said, obviously the night before, it was like moving erratically, which with everything that I know now, I would have definitely called in, but I didn't have that information and knowledge about noticing babies' movements. I mean, I'm coming from a time, it was 2022, which still you have a lot of information, but what I was being given was, oh, if she's moving enough, drink orange juice, right? Or eat chocolate. And
Yeah.
so if she's moving a lot, I just thought that's excitement.
Yeah.
So didn't think anything of it. Then I went into labor, and like I said, I did do a lot of reading, and there was a what's it called, What to Expect app, and then I did the hypnobirthing positive from the Positive Birth Company. And of course, all of these things, they never talk about no risks, right? And even with talking about risks, people need to remember that we're not just talking about risks, we're literally educating people to be aware of what to do, what not to do,
Yeah.
and how to act at things. That it shouldn't just be thought of risks and like immediately because I know what a risk is, that means my baby's going to die. No, knowing what a risk is could save my baby's life.
Yeah.
And so
Yes, absolutely. And you're so right as well, just to go back about movement, because most people, even up until now in 2026, people get told if babies' movements reduce and that it's very normal for the movements to be quite active. And, I don't think you're wrong. You were wrong to assume, okay, she's excited, because the advice, even medically, I support people all the time, and it is more about look out for the reduction in movements, not so much about more movements.
exactly. And even with that as well, I remember very distinctively being told, oh, if you are in labor, these are some signs of how you will know you're in labor. Obviously, you will know contractions wise and stuff, but I was told that your belly will go really hard. So the whole time, that was the only thing I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about, is she moving now? In fact, I didn't think babies would be moving whilst you're in labor because of like being told that your belly goes hard. That was the only thing I was looking out for. And so, yeah, like during that moment of being in labor, when obviously, you know, she's probably dying, then I am on my bouncy ball. I'm doing my yoga. I'm doing my breathing exercises. I'm listening to the Freya app to calm down. And my partner did. And I mean, I was 36 weeks and 5 days, which again is considered preterm. And I should have been told and I wasn't told, or maybe I should have done more research to know that 36 weeks, you need to still go into the hospital. I thought that I'm in the safe mark now, like she is meant to come at this point because, you know, this is the time that she's meant to come. So he did tell me, oh, you should call. And I said to him, oh, they often tell us to only call when our contractions are a little bit closer. So I'm going to wait. And then my waters break. So now it's the 29th around 10 a.m. or something, my waters break. And I know, okay, water's breaking, you do need to go in straight away. The water birth that I wanted, that's not going to work anymore because I'm going to get an infection because my water could get an infection.
Yeah.
But I noticed that we wiped my legs and I noticed that the waters were a little bit brown. But again, I thought, I didn't know what to expect in terms of waters breaking. I didn't know what color it should look like. We get an Uber to the hospital. It's not too far away from where we were staying. And then we go there. I tell them, actually, sorry, before we get the Uber, I do call my midwife just to make sure that they know. And I said, I'm 36 weeks and 5 days and I've just gone into labor and my waters are broken. And immediately she says, you're 36 weeks and 5 days. You need to come in straight away. Now, I didn't know why she was so, you know, stressed about that. But then I was like, okay, cool. So we go in, we get all our bags because we've already got our things ready. In the Uber, my partner's like, oh my God, what should we name her? He's calling family, all that excitement. And I've got my TENS machine poking my back. I'm just trying to breathe and listening to the music and whatever. Get there, we give in our notes and we say what we say about 36 weeks and 5 days. And we're just told to wait. My partner's panicking and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, relax. I'm the one that's in pain and I'm fine. So then whilst we're waiting in triage, it feels like 10 to 20 minutes we're waiting. Then we go into the room. I lay down and one of the midwives, I think her name was Alex or something, she has a Doppler and she's there for quite a long time. And like, I feel like in my head, there's that thing where it's like, oh, should I be worried? But also when you're in contractions, like, honestly,
You can't think.
yeah, it's too much going on. So I was just like, nah, it can't be that.
Yeah.
But then she says, I can only seem to hear your heartbeat. I'm just going to call a few doctors or I'm going to get some people in. The room is flooded in seconds. There's like 10 people. And then they take me to labor ward. They bring out the ultrasound machine and they're there checking and checking and checking. And then silent. And I felt like that silent was there for like 10 minutes. And then I had to say, where is my baby? And then, you know, there was just this quietness. And then I think it was a man. And he said, I'm sorry, but your baby didn't make it. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, I just became so numb. Just disbelief, utter disbelief. And the only thing I could think about was the egg that I ate the night before. Yes, the egg wasn't properly cooked. That's the reason why. That's the reason. Even though I made sure that egg was properly cooked. I had a great midwife, Claire, who looked after me in that moment. And she, you know, she just said, can't really remember too much of what happened after they told me that, right? I can only remember feeling numb. My partner, his English isn't 100%, so I had to tell him the baby's died in Portuguese. He's on the floor. I don't remember. I don't think anyone was with him. I genuinely don't remember. But also, even after that moment, there wasn't really much support for him, midwifery-wise or anyone there. I had one particular midwife who helps me give birth to Maila. And at every single moment, she kept telling me that I had time to think about what I wanted. She gave me my options. And that's one thing that I feel was really important because she raised the bar and the care that I received after that wasn't up to par. Yeah, in terms of the delivery, I would definitely say I had a good delivery. Like, I chose to give a vaginal birth, even though, like, my dad was in the room, by the way. My mom was in the room. My partner was in the room. My cousin was in the room. And my cousin was 17, I think, but she really wanted to be there. And then my auntie was in the room. This is an auntie who's always there whenever anyone gives birth. So she came and she was helping me. And I remember she was crying. I mean, everyone was crying. And yeah. So then I gave birth vaginally. My dad was like, no, just give her a C-section, give her a C-section. And I said, no, I want to give birth vaginally because I prepared for this moment, right? I've done the perineal massage, the exercises, all of this. I was ready for this. I psyched myself up. And honestly, giving birth to her vaginally was beautiful. I did not tear, considering the fact that, she wasn't helping me. It was honestly, I was on all fours. My head was against the chair. And I did it. And I'm so proud to say that both me and her, we were able to do that. But I didn't want to see her. And I looked at my mom held her, my cousin touched her, and I was just kept being like, how can you guys do that? I just immediately, because like I said, I was so numb, I detached. I was like, yep, I'm not a mum anymore. I don't deserve to be a mum. It's all my fault because I ate that egg. And I just kept saying, what the fuck, what the fuck? Of course this would happen to me, of course. That's just where my mind was at during that birth moment.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And,
Yeah.
that like kind of, it's very typical, I guess, sometimes of us as women to go, okay, is it something our bodies did wrong, we did wrong, and anything? But like what really sticks out to me is just how beautiful her birth was, and like the love that she received. And, as I was saying just before we started recording this episode, it is about like the similarities between birth and death as well, and the things around kindness, autonomy, consent, and how much love makes a difference, and I think, you know how beautiful that your family was there to receive her, just in the same ways that we would have maybe if this was decades ago and you had the village around you and that support, and there was somebody to, well, not even somebody, a few people there to receive her, and just like we know that even with the work that you are doing now, she that's her legacy, and she feels that, we leave our bodies, but the soul, the energy, that continues. And it's so, when I hear you talking about her and how she was received as well, I just think that's beautiful. And you had people to be able to give you that in lots of ways, Can you talk to us a little bit more as well about maybe the days that followed as well, and how, were you given some options? How did you receive some support as well from from the professionals, and that continued support from friends and family as well?
So the reason I absolutely loved the first midwife that was there that helped me bring her into Earthside, obviously not alive, but she really was someone who supported me. And like I said, she raised the bar because everyone else around, and honestly, I just felt like she was just being human. It was like, yes, a human reaction. It wasn't anything grand. Okay, so and everything after that was not as great. So I then had another midwife who came in. Her name was actually Helen, I think. And she was adamant that I needed to pee, which probably I did need to pee, but I couldn't pee for whatever reason. And it's been several hours since I'd given birth. It hadn't yet been a day. And she was adamant was just trying to force me to do it. I don't know what she was doing, but she was rubbing on me something to kind of force me to pee. And I kept saying to her, I don't want to pee, like I'm not ready to pee. And it got to a point where I had to shout at her. So again, that whole thing about consent, I was not being consented, right? Like, give me the time that I need. And this is what I liked about Claire, is that she kept saying to me, you have time, even though we all knew I didn't really have that much time, right? The time is going to go, just to alleviate and give me a few minutes. And actually, throughout when I was in labor and giving birth, when I was giving birth, she kept saying, you have time. And I said, okay, give me 5 minutes, like every time. And she wanted to see whether I did get a tear or not. And I said, okay, give me 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes. And this lady, she just wasn't taking it on. She was really adamant that I needed to pee. And I had to shout at her. And then, I don't know, I think because of the way that I shouted, she let me be. My partner was really great advocating for me as well. He was writing down every single thing that and listen, his English wasn't amazing at the time, but he was writing down every single thing that I was being given because he was scared that I was going to die as well, which I was very close to. I lost a lot of blood, had to get blood transfusion. So he was asking every single thing and noting down everything and asking, okay, what's this for? How many times does she have to do this? Blah, blah, blah. And then when your baby dies, a lot of people will talk about feeling very suicidal. I was already there, right? I was saying, what's the point? I didn't do the one thing I was supposed to do as a mother. I failed, have no children. I don't need to live. And so they were sort of arguing with me that I needed to get the blood clots removed. And I kept saying, no, I don't want the blood clots to be removed. Like, why are you going to remove it? Don't touch me. And again, this is how you see the difference in care, because a doctor came in and then he sat down next to me. He held my hand and he said, Helena, I understand you don't want to be touched right now, but you need to let me help you. And then he turned his hand and he turned my hand. He was from Malaysia, so obviously he was pale skin or paler than me. And he looked at my hand and looked at his and he said, your hand is paler than mine right now. You need to let me help you. And so I said, okay, fine then. So I put on some music. And then I took on some gas and air so that he could literally, my partner was saying his whole hand was going inside, like up to almost near my elbow, to remove those blood clots. And I was listening to Survivor by Beyonce, by Destiny's Child, just to get me through that. So that's the difference, right? I understand that she wanted me to pee, but she could have done it in a more delicate way, got my trust, earned her trust, my trust, for me to be able to say yes. Then some other midwives came in, but it didn't really feel like they were seeing me. It just felt like they were doing their job, like just head down, not mentioning the fact that my baby died or saying sorry. It really just felt like I was just another number. And that felt awful. It felt like, what was the point of me being here? And then in the weeks after that as well, when I'd gone home, I got my health visitor coming in, but I often say it just felt like she came to collect my notes. She said she'd be coming back and she still hasn't come back till this day. And you're like, even if you know that you're not going to be able, you don't have the capacity to come back, don't say that, because we're going to be holding on to that every word. Like, I do not have my child with me. I at least want the people that were there along the journey to just sort of hold me or tell me, I don't know, right? There's nothing that they could do or say that's going to make me feel better, but presence really does make a difference. When it came to family were amazing in those first days. Like, I have a big family and everyone was there in the hospital. There was about 20 people at some point. They came, I mean, it was around Christmas. It was just after Christmas. So it's like 4 days after Christmas, 2 days before New Year's. So they came, we ate meals together in that canteen. Everyday family was coming through. And I spent 5 days in the hospital because, like I said, I lost a lot of blood. And I'm really grateful. I mean, they were having beer in the hospital. For New Year's Day, like they were drinking. And when somebody dies in we're Angolan, it's not that we're having a party, but there is sort of like, you are supposed to have food and drinks to sort of celebrate that person's life. I wouldn't say that it necessarily felt like they were doing it for Maila. It was more for me to make me feel a little bit better or whatever, because I still feel like for my family there was like this sort of fear around talking about the baby who had died, but there was definitely still care there. Like, I remember one of the grandmas came and she was touching her, and another auntie came and touched her and just saying, oh, she was so beautiful. So yeah, those things really did matter. But then I feel like once you leave the hospital, you do miss out on that, and people do expect you to move on, get over, and then sorry, people sort of expect you to to move on, quite frankly. Like, I remember one of my aunties, when I had my son, she messaged me because I had a picture on my WhatsApp of Mila's hand and my hand, so me holding her hand. Now the picture is actually me pregnant with my son and a picture of Mila on my hand. But at the time, it was just a picture of Mila's hand, and I kept that picture for quite a few years after. And when I gave birth to my son, my auntie said, "Okay, congratulations, you can remove that now." And I was just like, no.
Oh, the insensitivity. I would not be
Yeah.
surprised if you even tattooed that on you so you could have that constant reminder, because
Yeah.
it's that the work that you're doing is to remember her and have continue being you. Like, I've literally got your name on my phone saved as Helena, Mila's mom, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate that so much.
So important as well, because like you said, you are a mom of two, and it's important to remember and to acknowledge that. And I think sometimes people don't know how to respond
Yeah.
to death. And I don't know why. It's like maybe saying, I don't know what to say, or even saying, what do you need? How can I show up for you? That's better than, oh, I don't know how to be, so let me not be, you know?
Yeah. Yes, that is dangerous,
Yeah.
especially when it's people who you're close with. Like, we've got Google, now we've got ChatGPT. Just ask it. Or
Yeah.
how can we support? Or, I mean, I think it's better to always ask the person.
Yes.
Not always gonna know the answer, but sometimes the person might actually say, actually, yes, could you come here? Even just showing up and bringing food and
Yes.
the same things that you would do if somebody did have their baby that was alive. By the way, you said about a tattoo, and yes, I do have a tattoo of my hand.
Love it. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you do. Good. That's amazing. And also, one of the things that you were saying as well, about your partner. And I often say to women, like, you're carrying the baby, your partner's carrying you and the baby as well. And how was the support that he received as well around Mila's death? Did he receive some support? How did people show up? Because we know sometimes it can be different in terms of the support that partners need or want, Did he have some support?
Absolutely not. No. And I mean, from family, it was very much like, be strong. And in that moment as well, like, we're still in the hospital, like, baby was born yesterday, and you're saying, be strong for her, for the family, for you, for the baby. What do you mean, be strong? Like, and for example, a whole year, was it a year later or 2 years later? By the way, his birthday is a week, literally a week after Mila's birthday. And like I said to you, we chose not to see her, but then we went back to the hospital and we went back on his birthday to see her. We took lots of pictures, videos, spent quality time with her, but it makes those dates really hard for him. So one time we had a Christmas and then he was crying, and my dad was like, oh, stop crying. And it's like, what do you mean stop crying? Like, this is something that's going to be with him for the rest of our life. And often I have to tell my parents, not anymore, because with the work that I do, like, they've learned so many things, but I often have to say to them, okay, what would you do if I died? How would you be if I died?
You
You
would
know?
cry. Yeah, like cry. It's good. Like release those emotions. They're there to be felt. And anger as well. That's another emotion that's often like kind of given a bad label, but it often tells us like, no, something needs to change, So even you having to like shout at that midwife to say like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to pee. It's like, I'm glad that you were able to, because another reaction could be so easy to then kind of just really, really disengage and just be like, okay, let me not trust my body. Let me not connect to myself or speak up for myself as well, So I think even just that scene, you describing that, that sticks out to me as such a powerful moment to go, that was you protecting and advocating for yourself when you didn't have to. But again, it's just such a testament to you then also finding the voice that's then had continued in terms of doing the work that you are doing, and just before we get into a little bit more about the work, I want to really acknowledge as well what you said about, like, that feeling of not wanting to be here, because I think that's a very, very real, completely understandable emotion and response to the death of your child. What helped you mentally and emotionally? I always think, like, to go through what you've gone through, a child, a mother to have to bury their child, like, it's nothing short of a miracle to still be here and to continue, and you using your voice to just make sure that other families aren't going through what you went through in terms of raising awareness. How did you find that strength within you? Was there a particular moment? Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, actually, I was in the hospital still, actually, probably day 3, day 4, and my friends came, 2 of my school best friends, and one of those friends, her mom and her grandma had died around COVID time, very close to each other. And then I had to say to her, I'm so sorry. And I said, how do you do this? And she said to me, I mean, she literally just talked to me about that medium who I saw. And then I became obsessed. I was like, okay, fine, I need to see this medium. And also this friend of mine, she's an atheist or agnostic. I don't know which one it is. Like, she doesn't believe in anything, but I think after seeing that medium, she must believe in something. But she, throughout, school days, never believed in anything. And so I was like, okay, for her to be telling me this, there must be some truth to this. So I became really obsessed. So as soon as I left the hospital, I started like going on YouTube videos and just listening to like ways to reconnect to dead ones, like loads of videos and meditation. I was doing meditation constantly. I was listening to this spiritist church. And there's also, like, in Portuguese, it's like, so there's this guy called Allan Kardec, and he's from the 1800s. And he was like this scholar who didn't believe in like any of this mystic stuff. He wasn't a religious person. He was a scientist. And then in come these mediums of the time, and they had like the round, what's it called? The turning tables or whatever, where they used to do like their seances. And he didn't believe in this. He thought, oh, this is just a circus. But then he was like, fine. No, somebody came to him and said, no, you need to do some research. You need to do some research because you're a great researcher, whatever. And he's like, fine, I'll do it. So then he went around several countries and spoke to different mediums who in the 1800s, there's no way that these people would have been able to connect to each other.
No Wi-Fi.
Exactly. He asked the same questions to these people. It's like over 100 questions. And for each question, everyone would have the exact same answer. And then he's like, where are these people getting this answer from? There must be something on the other side communicating to them, because the answers were the exact same to several questions. And so the Spiritist church that I was a part of, or that I joined, there was one close to where I was living at the time. And straight after the funeral, I went to that church. So Maila's funeral was on the 9th of February. So almost a month. No, almost, yeah, it was a month and a bit after she died. And I started like listening to the Portuguese version of it. And they were just reading from this book. And also I joined a course online. But retract. So that was my obsession first. And then I had my reading with the medium, and the medium told me all of these things. Everything that he told me was correct. Then he said to me, oh, you're going to do a course. And I was like, I'm not going to do a course. Like, I don't have money to be doing any more courses. I'm done with that. And then the free course, literally the day after that free course about mediumship, came in front of my like Facebook. It was so random because I wasn't using Facebook for any of these searches. And then I joined and I did the course, and that course kept me afloat. Literally, it saved me, right? I did that course all the way for a whole year. It was was it monthly or every Saturday? I think it was every Saturday in the evening. And it really soothed my heart, because it's the one place that I found people talking about death without making it this whole thing. And also, talking about people who had died without being afraid to talk about them. So that is what it was. It was the medium and everything around that kept me going, because, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. This is so important, because I think sometimes when people hear death, they think, okay, it's the end, it's final. And I think that, the work that mediums do is so interesting, like hearing you talk, because this morning, normally when I support clients with going to appointments or I'm in the car, I'll be listening to some music. And this morning I thought, no, I want to listen to a podcast on the way to the hospital. And the podcast I listened to was eerily so similar to what you're
Oh,
talking
no way.
about. And I was like, and it was somebody who'd seen a medium after her best friend died at 19, and she went to a spiritualist church, and she said just that really, really, really helped. And I love was seeing
Wow.
the pattern of synchronicities within this, and I really take it as like confirmation, because somebody saying to you, do you know what? She's still with you, or her energy is there, and it's that when you feel it as well, you feeling like, okay, me doing this work, going onto this course, and you even now, like, developing a course that where you're teaching midwives, healthcare practitioners, doulas, birth keepers, everybody about baby bereavement is just so important for people to know that, yes, it will feel like there's just no end. Like, how can you survive the tomorrow, but just knowing and having that connection with our loved ones beyond that, I think is something so, 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 so powerful that can really help keep that connection alive and help to keep us alive, because naturally, as a mother, you'll obviously want to be close to her as well. You mentioned your son. How does you being Mila's mum affect the way that you mother and show up for your son now?
Yeah, so whenever he's got any sort of sickness, I sometimes spiral and I think, yeah, this is gonna kill him. Like I'm always searching, for example, like I said to you earlier, he's got scarlet fever, which is now over, but I thought it was chickenpox, and I was like, can you die from chickenpox? Can you die from scarlet fever? And then it said yes, and immediately I was like, oh my God. But he's on antibiotics now and it's being managed, and I'm actually grateful for AI before that, because it's helping me flag the things that I need to pay attention to. So throughout my pregnancy with him, was I using it? Not my pregnancy, but from his birth, whenever he has something, I'll go on there. Obviously, I'll take it to the hospital, right? But sorry, my throat. I have to come in with knowledge and feel like I am advocating with, this is what I think he has, and blah, 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 and hearing from them. So he's got like enlarged adenoids. So his breathing isn't really good. So when he's in bed, I was always panicking. Oh my God, is he going to make it through the night? He's always congested. So he's going to hopefully get a surgery soon to get that reduced. But it just means that I'm always very attentive. But I also try not to be overbearing, because I know that that is not also good. He's also a little adventurer. So he just likes to do loads of different things. Very social. Like yesterday, we went to the park and he's out here just chatting to random people, sitting with them. Oh my gosh. So yeah, he's a bubble of energy, which is always great. But then there's also the other side where sometimes I feel guilty when I'm doing too many things around Mila and not enough, or feel like I'm not being present with him in the moment. So for example, if I'm making content, it takes time to edit, it takes time to create whatever it is that you need to create. And I feel bad that I'm not spending time with him. So it's like a lot to juggle. But then I think, okay, not that, yeah, so I do try to balance my time. But then I also think if they were both alive, I wonder whether that would also be something that I'd be thinking about. Oh, I'm spending too much time on one child, not enough time on the other. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Very well put. And having that insight, because, supporting second, third time moms or fourth time moms as well. It's like that mum guilt is there regardless, no matter what's happening within life. And yeah, I think I'm just so in awe of the work that you are doing to educate professionals. One thing I want to go back to is kind of like where we started. So if anyone's listening to this and they are going through baby bereavement, what is the support that you then received from work as well, because we know that like this is, you can go through something like this and it's like your whole world stops and you can wake up and think, how dare the sun comes up, like everything in my world has stopped. Like, why
Yeah.
isn't the entire world stopping? Because your world has been completely, utterly rocked and you're having to really sit with grief, like the deepest grief, where you just like, it doesn't make sense and this shouldn't be happening, it doesn't make sense in a human way or logically.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that then having to step back into to life. How did you navigate that, and what are like maybe some of the legal things or just employment law that people need to be aware of? How much time do you still have maternity leave after going through bereavement?
Yeah, that's such a good point that you're raising, and I'm glad that you painted that picture of grief because it's exactly what it's like. And I feel like obviously now I'm speaking in hindsight, I'm looking back, and therefore my experience, I'm not even talking about the depths of grief that I felt where I didn't want to get out of bed at all for weeks, months on end, and that is so real. And I remember when I'd listened to women who sound like how I'm speaking now, and being like, people just don't get it, which obviously they do, but it's just like, it's yeah, it's a hard reality, and you really do feel like, why is the world still going? How the hell is it still moving? I remember whenever I'd go to Tesco if I needed to get something, or Aldi, whatever, and just going past the baby aisle was the most heart-wrenching, like you want to throw up type experience. I'd have to listen to music, running and crying at the same time. In fact, I was always just listening to music to muffle out the world around me. But around work, so first of all, to be entitled to maternity leave, you have to experience the loss of your child, or the death of your child, from 24 weeks onwards, because otherwise it's not really you're not given time off. You're not given maternity leave off, which is just so unbelievably unfair. It's disgusting. So yeah, you do get maternity leave, thankfully, the whole full year. Obviously, I think you only get paid for the 9 months, and then the remaining 3 months you don't get paid. I can't remember anymore. I'm pretty sure
Yeah, I
that's the
think that's right. Yeah.
yeah. And then one thing that I wish I had done, and that I would definitely say to people, if you are planning to return, do a phased return first. Also, speak to your manager about how you want to be addressed or how you want things to be done. Like, really lay out the boundaries and the things that will help you. Or if you don't want people to mention anything at all, you let them know. Another thing is actually find out if they've got any funds available to support any counseling for you, because a lot of workplaces actually do have these things in place, but they just might not tell you, and you might not ask because you feel like you wouldn't even consider to ask. So ask that. Even if you are already getting counseling, there's nothing wrong with getting a couple more counseling, or a private counselor, therapy, whatever it is, any different kind of therapy that you could get. I would definitely say just ask for that. I actually created an email template on one of the personalized care plans that I've got, aftercare plan, that I would I need to send, just remind I need to send that to someone. I would
Got
love.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that email template is just very important, because it's asking the right questions about the things that you should be entitled to, or you should ask your workplace. Another thing to note as well, if your baby dies, even if it's before 24 weeks, but they breathe, like they breathe for a little bit, don't discount that, in the sense of you can still get maternity leave, because a lot of the times, unfortunately, they're not going to write your notes correctly. So make sure that you are, and it's hard to do that, right? Because why should I have to be making sure that people are doing their job whilst I'm grieving at the same time?
Exactly.
But it has to be noted that your baby was born alive, because then you'll be entitled to maternity leave as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And another thing, like when it comes to funeral costs, essentially everything is free. But if your baby dies before 24 weeks, you do have to pay for that.
Yeah. Which, gosh, there's so much like, like again, it's that word that you used, which I think is just like, we don't need a huge policy shift. can we just, and you use this word, when you're describing the care that you received from Claire, it's the humanity, because what do you mean? You just expect somebody to go back to work as if nothing happened, It's like we need to pause and kind of like, yeah, reassess, like, oh yeah, what does the world look like kind of beyond this, And I'm sure as well that we will have more conversations. I would love to be able to speak to you a bit more as well in the future, but I'm also aware of the time, and I think this is a really good place to close and to thank you for showing up, for just the amazing love that you continue to show for Maila and to other mummies as well out there who are going through this, and to also professionals, and acknowledging that, of course, when we're supporting people who are going through bereavement, like it's important that it does also touch us. We can't be removed. We have to show up to our jobs with our hearts as well, and yeah, that's what makes the difference between good bereavement care and not so good bereavement care as well,
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly with that. It's about humanizing at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll close there for today.
Before we finish, I wanted to let you know that if this conversation has touched something in you, or if you or someone you love is navigating the death of a baby, I've put together a free downloadable guide on my website. It includes a list of organizations that offer support to bereaved parents and families, because no one should have to walk this journey on their own. You can download it for free on my website, thandozwane.com. And if you know someone who might benefit from this conversation, please consider sharing it with them. Thank you for listening, and until next time, take gentle care of yourself and each other.